The most significant aspect of O Brother, Where Art Thou is its connection to the Odyssey, the epic poem attributed to Homer. Infusing this ancient tale into cinema is not a new concept. 2001: A Space Odyssey was given Odyssean parallels outside of its name. Dave Bowman is meant to take the role of Odysseus, who is known for his archery skills. And HAL 9000, a computer with only one eye, assumes the role of the infamous Cyclops. Arthur C. Clarke and Stanley Kubrick wanted to create a modern myth, by their own admission. George Milius and Francis Ford Coppola wanted Apocalypse Now to have the same flavor as the Odyssey as well, and not just Heart of Darkness. Coppola even mockingly called their project the Idiodyssey. But O Brother, Where Art Thou is a far more complete adaptation. It's not just a sprinkle of references, it's a retelling and a reimagining of the story. What's fascinating about this is that the Coens thought up the framework for their story without even thinking about the Odyssey. After the basic outline, they just noticed a couple similarities, so they added more and more. The elements in the Odyssey are so ingrained in our storytelling that bits and pieces can happen by accident. After realizing this, it was changed during the screenwriting process to have more to do with the epic poem. Before this, the Coens never actually read the Odyssey. They just knew parts of it because it was such a big part of our shared culture. Now, after rereading huge swaths of the Odyssey myself for the first time in over a decade, I can't help but notice that most articles and essays about the connections between the epic poem and the Coen brothers film leave out a lot, or misidentify Tommy as Athena or something. I hope this episode can be a more complete guide to the parallels between the ancient story and this movie. For those only vaguely familiar with the Odyssey through its frequent references in pop culture, the occasional appearance by a parallel character in this movie might register, but after an examination of the film scene by scene and character by character, O Brother, Where Art Thou actually follows the plot points of the ancient story very closely. Although the time, place, and general comedic tone of the film are all noticeably different from the source material, it's actually a far more faithful adaptation than one might guess. Let's go through this step by step, and I'll show you what I mean. Ulysses Everett McGill, or Everett for short, is the clearest representative character. He is Odysseus. The name Ulysses is actually the Latin version of Odysseus. In the Odyssey, Odysseus is on his way home to his wife after the Trojan War. He has been gone so long that most everyone assumes he's dead. In the film, Everett is on his way home to his wife, but not as a war veteran, he's an escaped convict. Pete and Delmar represent Odysseus' crew. Pete takes the role of mutineers, and Delmar the role of fools. At various times in both the epic poem and the film, our main character is plagued with foolish or treasonous acts by his compatriots. Twice in the film, Pete attempts to usurp Everett's leadership, once near the beginning and another towards the end. And Delmar's acts of foolishness are legion. Tommy, the fourth member of their eventual band, takes the role of Eumaeus and Philautius, Odysseus' faithful companions. Everett calls him his accompanist when they play music. Tommy sold his soul to the devil for his musical abilities. This connection with the supernatural and knowledge of the appearance of Satan is one instance of purported magic or uncanny powers in the film. Another is Delmar's belief that God saved them from execution by creating a flood. Penny, Everett's ex-wife, assumes the role of Penelope, who is Odysseus' wife. In the epic poem, she has him prove his love to her, much in the same way that Penny has Everett search for their lost wedding ring. Vernon T. Waldrip represents all of Penelope's suitors from the Odyssey, the leading ones being Antonius and Eurycomus. The former is aggressive, and the other is a smooth talker. Vernon shows himself to be a bit of both, sweet-talking Penny, and dispatching Everett rather quickly.
You've been using my hair treatment.
Your hair treatment?
Excuse me.
The role of Telemachus, Odysseus' son, is covered by Everett's daughters. They, much like Telemachus, were under the impression that their father had died. Of course, in this case, they were explicitly told a lie about Everett's death by their mother, that being that he was hit by a train. The women doing laundry and singing are probably among the most obvious connections to the Odyssey. The sirens lure men to their death with their song. They seduce Everett, Pete, and Delmar. They also turn in Pete, presumably for the reward money. Their connection to the magic of the Odyssey comes to light when Delmar mistakenly believes Pete was turned into a toad instead of captured. Big Dan Teague is also among the clearest parallel characters. In this case, Polyphemus, better known as the Cyclops. In the Odyssey, the Cyclops actually kills some of Odysseus' crew, and in the film, Dan kills the toad that Delmar mistakenly believes is actually Pete. In the Odyssey, the crew drives a pole into the Cyclops' eye. Dan, however, catches the pole. The sheriff is Poseidon, the god of the sea. In the Odyssey, Poseidon is the father of the Cyclops. He seeks revenge on Odysseus for blinding his son. In O Brother, Where Art Thou, the sheriff is not related to Dan as far as we know, but he does plot against Everett, Pete, and Delmar, pursuing them throughout the movie. When Everett says that they were pardoned by the governor, the sheriff implies that he follows a higher power, likening his will to that of a god. It should be noted that earlier in the film, Tommy tells the story of how he sold his soul to the devil for his ability to play guitar. The description of the devil, a white man with empty eyes and a hound, matches the sheriff exactly. In other words, within the context of the Odyssey, the sheriff is Poseidon, but within this story, in this world, he is a different supernatural entity altogether.
Ain't the law.
The law? Law is a human institution.
Mr. Lund is a radio station owner who pays Everett and his friends, now known as the Soggy Bottom Boys, to sing a song. The song sounds like Everett's life story. Mr. Lund is King Alcinous, a man who has Odysseus tell his life story. In exchange, Odysseus gets to go home. The song, Man of Constant Sorrow, corresponds with a line from the Odyssey. I am a man of many sorrows. These words are spoken by Odysseus. Another way of looking at Mr. Lund is that he is Homer himself, recording the life of Odysseus. The blind man on the railroad corresponds to Tiresias, a blind prophet. In both cases, they tell our protagonist the future.
You will find a fortune, though it will not be the fortune you seek.
The political fight between the two men running for governor is a parallel to the battle between the Greeks and Trojans. Everett, Pete, and Delmar, disguising themselves during the clan rally, is similar to hiding under the sheep to escape the Cyclops in the Odyssey. Notice that Big Dan, the Cyclops stand-in, takes off their hoods. The baptism scene is from the section of the Odyssey with the Lotus Eaters. In the epic poem, some of Odysseus' crew eat the lotus and forget about home. Odysseus does not. Pete and Delmar volunteer to be baptized, but Everett does not.
Baptism.
You two are just dumber than a bag of hammers.
The Odyssey has a section in which the crew is warned not to harm the cattle of the sun god Helios. Someone does, and he is punished by Zeus, god of thunder. George Babyface Nelson kills a cow, seemingly for no reason. He is later sent to be executed by electric chair, not for the cow, but for various other crimes. In both cases, someone is punished by electrocution. Pride is the downfall of the protagonists of O Brother, Where Art Thou? And the Odyssey. Everett's insistence on using Dapper Dan pomade for his hair keeps the sheriff on his tail. The bloodhound smells the pomade, and the sheriff finds the hairnet. When Penny tells Everett to find her wedding ring in the water after the flood, he balks at the idea. This is a reference to the legend of Theseus, who had to find a golden ring to prove he was Poseidon's son. The ring was at the bottom of the ocean. But here's what's important. Retelling this ancient story isn't just some nod to a more literate audience. Our collective mythology, our art, is something that binds us and connects us throughout the centuries. It even happens in the film. A segregated state starts to reconsider its attitudes when an integrated band plays for them. The Klansman is shouted down because this music, this art, this thing that brings us together, is more important than the artifice that separates us. That's the significance of our art and our cultural tales and mythology. It doesn't even matter that they happened or not. It's what made us. These characters, these adventures. Angels, monsters, miracles, and unlikely heroes. These are our stories.